Hello, grade 10s. This is the video for lesson 4.4, unit 4, lesson 4. And today we are going to talk about negative exponents. So up until this point, of course, you know that exponents mean, for example, that little 2 up there, right? And we know that that means 2 times itself twice to give us 4. So we know that that is the exponent. Today, every exponent you see, or mostly every exponent you see, will be negative, and we have to do something special before we can evaluate. We actually cannot evaluate negative exponents. We have to switch them to positive exponents first, and then we can solve. So, to evaluate powers with a negative exponent, we ensure the expression is in the form of a fraction. So for example, if I gave you something like that, 3 to the negative 2, before we can even think about solving it, we have to take that and make it in the form of a fraction. And so all that means is putting it over top of 1. And doing that will help us change it to a positive exponent later on. I'll explain that part later. If the base containing the negative exponent is in the numerator, so remember a fraction has 2 parts. The numerator is the upper part, so numerator. So if the base containing the negative exponent is in the numerator, we send it down to the denominator. And the exponent becomes positive. So for example, right here, this 3, the 3 is the base, okay? So just a reminder of grade 9, 3 is the base, and the exponent is the negative 2. Okay, so here the base is in the numerator. So the 3 is up top. And so these instructions say that we would send the 3 down to the denominator, sorry. If the base containing the negative exponent is in the denominator, so sometimes I'll give you an expression where the negative exponent is already on the bottom of the fraction. If that's the case, we send it up to the numerator. And the exponent becomes positive. Once all of the exponents are positive, we can evaluate. So, first example here. Evaluate the following expression. So here we have 5 to the negative 2. In order for us to be able to solve that, the first step up there said, make sure that this looks like a fraction. So all we have to do is put it over 1 and boom, we have it looking like a fraction. The next thing it says is, if the base with the negative exponent is in the numerator, which it is, that 5 is in the numerator, send it down to the denominator. So we take this whole power and we are going to send it down to the denominator. So we rewrite this as still, but now that 1 that was down there is being replaced by the power. And once you send it down, the exponent becomes positive. Okay? And I mean, you can imagine that that 1 that was here is still in this step, multiplied to that 5 that just came down, but really multiplying by 1 doesn't do anything. So that's why you're allowed to just remove it and just have the 5 down there. However, because we took everything away from the numerator, there's nothing up in the numerator, we can't just leave it empty. There has to be something up there. So we have to put a 1 as a space filler up there. Okay, so now this becomes 1 over 5 squared, which is 25. And we're done. So all you do when you see a negative exponent is switch it. Either if it's up, you go down. If it's down, you go up and solve. So in this one, again, it doesn't look like a fraction. So the first thing you do is make it look like a fraction. There you go. And then because the negative exponent is in the numerator, we're going to take this whole power and send it down. Now, once we send it down, that, like I already explained, that 1 that was down there doesn't need to be written anymore because it's being replaced by the 3, and that now has a positive 3 on it. And again, because we took everything away from up top there, we just have to do a space filler of a 1. And then the answer is now 1 over 3 cubed, or 27. Okay. A metaphor I sometimes say is, you know, if you guys get grounded, if you guys do something really, really, really bad, your parents might banish you to your room in the basement. If your room is in the basement, they might, you know, discipline you in the living room and then said, get downstairs to your room because you did something bad. That's just like this. These negative exponents are bad. So they get sent down or banished down into the basement until they get better. Okay, here. I included this example because the base is also negative, but I don't want you to ever worry about that. Okay, a base being negative won't change anything. Only the negative exponents will change. So first step, make it look like a fraction. There it is. Because our negative exponent is up high in the numerator, we're going to send it down low. So we rewrite it as this whole power going down low. So just like I just said, that -2 doesn't change. It's just the exponent that becomes positive. And then we do a space filler up top with the 1. And then we just evaluate -2 times itself 4 times is -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. All of the negatives would cancel out and become a positive 16. So the answer is positive in the end. Okay, this guy right here. This is a different example now because the negative is already in the bottom. So this question already looks like a fraction, right? We have the 2 parts to it. So we don't have to add anything. It's already a fraction. And so we take a look. Where's the negative exponent? The negative exponent is already in the denominator. So to fix it, we just send it up to the numerator. So again, if it's down, it goes up. If it's up, it goes down. So that 4 comes up top and it kind of replaces that 1 up top. We don't need that 1 up there anymore. And it becomes positive. Now, if you want, because like we took everything away from down low, right? There's nothing down there. You can write the space filler of the 1 on the bottom, but a 1 on the bottom isn't necessary. You don't need to write the 1 on the bottom. You do need to write the 1 on the top. Whoops. Okay, you have to have a 1 up top, but you do not have to have a 1 on the bottom. So this is just 16. So we sent that 4 up to the numerator. Okay, and so we kind of don't have a denominator anymore. The answer is just 16. Okay, this example here, again, I'm kind of adding a new element every time here. So now we have an 11. So that changes things. Okay, but first of all, it's already in the form of a fraction, so that's good. Now we ask ourselves, where is the negative exponent? Well, here the negative exponent is in the denominator. So we have to send it up to the numerator for it to become positive. Now I want you to listen closely. First of all, this negative right here, nothing happens to it. It's still just going to follow us to the next step. Now that 5 comes up high and becomes positive. But that 11, you can't just erase the 11 like we erase a 1. We can always just erase 1s, but we can't erase 11s. Now, if we were in class, I would ask you, do we have to move that 11? Let's think about what the exponent is on the 11. The 11 right now technically has a positive exponent of 1 on it, right? If there's nothing written there, it's a positive 1. We don't need to move positive exponents. Positive exponents, we can evaluate those. So why would we move the 11? He didn't do anything wrong. So that 11 is actually still up there beside the 5 now. So we just bring up the 5. It is now side by side that 11. I'll repeat that again. The 11 does not have a negative exponent. It does not have to move. Just the 5 has to move. So now we evaluate negative 11 times 5 cubed, which is 125. And sorry, I didn't do this on my calculator beforehand. I'm just going to quickly check what that 11 times 125 is. And don't worry, we're going to do more examples like this to really make sure you get the hang of it. So 11 times 125 is 1,375. Don't forget that negative out front. Okay, in this one here, we have two different things. We have a 3 to the negative 3. We have a 5 to the negative 2. We already have it in the form of a fraction, so we don't have to do anything there. And so now we ask ourselves, who has to move? Who's bad? The 3 is bad because it has a negative exponent, and the 5 is bad because it has a negative exponent. So they both have to move. So let's start with the 3. The 3 is up high. So for it to change, it has to go down low. Also, the 5 is bad, but it's already down low, so it has to go up high. So you just move places. So I'm going to draw my fraction. This 3 gets sent down, but the 5 gets sent up. So they just switch places. So the denominator becomes the numerator, so that 5 comes up and is positive, but then the 3 gets sent down and is positive. And now we evaluate one at a time. 5 squared is 25. 3 cubed is 27. You can't reduce that fraction and you're done. Okay, so unlike E here, both of those terms had to move because they were both negative. But here, I'm going to write that in. The 11 stays put. Okay, G. If we were in class, I would ask you, who has to move here? And I would hope that you would say only the 6 has to move, because that 7 didn't do anything wrong. It's just chilling out up top with a positive exponent. He's good. He's not getting grounded. He didn't do anything bad. So all we have to do here is take that 6 and move it up. And that 7 that was up there just stays up there. And now they become side-by-side buddies. And because we removed that 6 from the bottom, there's nothing on the bottom anymore, and that's okay. We can just totally remove the bottom of the fraction. We don't have to write a 1 underneath. So it's just, it's just 49 times 36. I'll quickly check what that is, and then we'll just go through 3 more examples. So 49 times 36 is 1,764. Okay. This one's a little bit different. You have an entire bracket to a negative, okay? When you have an entire bracket to the negative, it's like both of them are negative. So that's an exponent law that you guys learned in grade 9 or should have learned in grade 9, that when you have an entire bracket to the negative, it's like that, or to an exponent, it's like that exponent just belongs to both of them. So these are the exact same thing. So in this case, we would say, okay, well, both of these guys have been bad. The 4 has been bad and the 5 has been bad. So we're going to send that 4 down and it becomes positive, and we're going to send that 5 up and it becomes positive. So it's 25 over 16 and you're done. So another way you can do this if you want is from this step right here, you just flip the fraction. The entire thing in the bracket gets flipped and then it becomes positive. So these two are just kind of two different ways you can do the same question. And then 5 squared is 25 and 4 squared is 16. So same answer in the end. I don't care which way you want to do it. Okay, 2 more. So in this question, I have 2 negative exponents that are multiplied together. They're already side by side. So the first thing I said in my instructions was, make sure it looks like a fraction. This does not look like a fraction. Now it does. So we have our numerator and our denominator. So if we start with the 9, we know that that 9 has been bad and he needs to be sent down. We also know that the 8 has been bad and he needs to be sent down. So if we rewrite this as a fraction, we now have the 9 down low, but the 2 is now positive. And then we also have the 8 down low, but that 3 is positive. So this is a case where we have removed everything from the top. There's nothing left up top anymore. That's where you have to put the placeholder of a 1. So you just go ahead and it's going to be 81 times 8 cubed Again, I just got to pull out my calculator here. Okay, so just a reminder, 8 cubed is not 8 times 3. It's 8 times itself 3 times. 8 times 8 times 8, which is 512. So on the bottom, you have 81 times 512, which is a big number, and it's in the denominator, so it's 1 over 41,472. So remember that big number is on the bottom because we sent everything to the bottom. You need that 1 up top. Okay. This one I decided to throw in because it's a decimal. However, decimals don't change anything. We still use the same rules. First of all, this is not a fraction, so I put it over 1. Okay. So now that now that it's over 1, oh my gosh. I can tell myself, oh, okay, well, I have a negative exponent in the numerator. It needs to be sent down to the denominator. So I have my fraction line. The 0.75 heads down and the 3 becomes positive. And because I removed everything from the top, I have to have that placeholder. And so all you do on your calculator is go 0.75 times 0.75 times 0.75, and you get a nasty old decimal, 0.421875. Now, you are not allowed to leave decimals in a fraction. You can't have it both ways. You either have a fraction or a decimal, but you can't have a decimal and a fraction together. So all you do is just go 1 divided by that number. So 1, because that's what this fraction is really saying. You want 1 divided by 0.421875, and that just equals, we'll round to a couple decimal places, 2.37. Okay. And there you go. So for the assignment, there is a worksheet and a few questions from the textbook. Okay. And you will be getting the worksheet in class when I see you next. Okay. Good luck.